positions that we selected, so he picked better ones that are quiet. And so he did his survey, I think it was in the springtime, and he got low levels. Well, shortly after that report, his report came out, and our winter survey report was published. And it had actually lower sound levels reported than Schomer had measured. So I called him about that because his report is defamatory. It's unprofessional at best. It's just savage on work. So after we talked to him, he realized that, okay, your winter results were comparable to what I got. Okay, I retract my criticism. And then the next thing, he offered my dad to be the chairman of a background noise session at a conference he was organizing. And right now, him and my dad are working on a new weighting, the A weighting and C weighting. He's working on a new weighting system that is designed to filter out insect noise. And Schomer wants to call it DBH or H weighting after Hessler. Some kind of olive branch is holding in. But unfortunately, once the report is out there, it can't be brought back in. And I've been questioned about that report all the way up in Washington State. And it's very damning to our professional reputation. So, and then it turns out the whole basis for his criticism was undermined once he was made aware of our winter results. And another thing is, I think he was also responding to the DEIS for the BP project. We had no involvement. All we did was the 2 field surveys. That's it.
Okay, I'm not trying to get involved with back and forth, but we're trying to deal with something that's terribly important. And so, I'm not trying to get into he's intellectually dishonest. I just want to ask what your answer is back and forth, because I'm seeing a tremendous discrepancy.
Right.
I'm seeing that Tachi and Schomer seem to both disagree with you. So I want to be very, very polite to you and listen to you and your answers to both of those professional questions.
Yeah. Well, he disagreed with our summer results. He assumed we were going to use it as the basis for the design. But once he was made aware of our winter results, he said, okay, the measurement positions were okay, the levels were okay. He doesn't question what we did.
So you have reconciled your differences with him?
Yeah. I'm still not happy that report's floating around.
Is the data you presented today from the summer or from the winter?
All the key plots in there are all the winter data. I showed one plot of the summer results for the St. Lawrence project where all the levels were real high and there was no wind dependency whatsoever. We just threw those results out.
The turbine location sites are all done on the winter data. And you showed us the sites of the turbine and the houses in the distance. Those are all based on the winter data?
Yeah, because the background level was measured under winter conditions at 37 was then used to calculate the 6 increase threshold, and that's what was shown in those plots.
What happens, because one of the things we've talked about is a higher number than 5 plus 1 or 6 being added to the ambient noise. If we used 8, okay, what does that do to your model?
The threshold point would contract 3 dB closer to the turbines, so those areas would get smaller and further from the houses.
What kind of a distance? Any idea? Or is that something that if we needed modeled, could be modeled?
Oh yeah, that could be done in 2 minutes by just changing the outer threshold number on the model. But it would shrink that those threshold areas in significantly, make them a lot smaller and further from the house.
Based on the information we have previously received and what you've done, the planning board, it looks like, is going to be given a lot of information and forced to make a decision. And it appears to me that, I'm not quite sure how to ask this question, but the studies, there was some disagreement between Tochi and you how you did the studies in terms of, they said, you know, you can't correlate it with wind, you said you have to correlate it with wind, but at the end of the day, the decision has to be made by the planning board, correlate with wind or not correlate with wind. Can you give me one more quick version on why it's correlated with wind? Just refresh this. Why use your study to correlate with wind when the previous one we had said don't correlate it with the wind?
Well, if you remember that chart where we have the sound level, the L90 sound level compared to the wind speed, and those two lines just move together.
Correct.
That tells me that there's a definite correlation. Whatever the wind is doing, the sound is following.
Is the turbine that you use for your modeling, whether it was 101 point something or 102, is that the turbine that they are using?
Yeah, that's the Axiom AW82 model, and those numbers just come right from the test report that was done.
Okay.
But one thing you might want to consider is it's usually more practical to set an absolute limit rather than a relative limit, 6 or 8 above the background. Because if you go out and measure the background again, it'll probably be a little bit different, might be different on a different day. So what we've kind of come to the conclusion is that an absolute limit of, an ideal design target of 40 or less of all houses is good as an ideal design target, but as a regulatory limit, an absolute level of 45 seems to be a reasonable balance, because we've only observed a 2% rate of significant complaints if the project sound level is less than 45.
Okay, but if we take 45, does that fit in with a DEC design of no more than 6?
In this case, yes. This project would meet a 45 absolute limit, and as we've seen, it'll also meet DEC guidelines, which is rare, as I mentioned.
Bruce, do you have a question?
I just be patient with me. You're saying that the wind, if it works with the sound, tends to block out the sound, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if the background noise is high enough, it's going to drown out.
So my question is, are there any variations in that? Are there instances in which that type of masking, for lack of a better word, breaks down and you can really hear it?
Yeah.
Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, like I mentioned, at night, the background level often just kind of drops, and then there's a little bit of wind blowing at 300 feet up, causing the turbines to operate. But it's very calm near the ground, so there isn't a lot of background noise. So yeah, we do see that at night the turbines become more prominent. So that does happen. But over the long term, the 6 increase over that 37, that's a long-term mean typical condition. But there's going to be periods in there where it becomes louder and periods when it's quieter. So
Once again, I don't want to appear obstructionist, but I do want to look at the weak points from the viewpoint of people who have, spent their lives here, built here, and they want to have that, maintain that type of serenity that, is a very unique part of the community.